The written word is a powerful force in history, and there are certain books that hold even more power and mystery. These strange and intriguing volumes are often penned by anonymous authors and may describe events long forgotten or uncharted and imaginary worlds. There exist some ancient books that are written in cryptic codes that have not been deciphered, so that their meaning is still unknown. While some of these mysterious works may be intentional hoaxes left behind to bewilder us, many also appear to impart ancient wisdom. Here are 5 mysterious books from history. Number 5. The Book of Saiga. The Book of Saiga, also known as Alderaya, was written in the 16th century and was a heavily coded book purporting to be about Renaissance magic and alchemy. It is written in Latin and includes topics of demonology, astrology, spells, and angel genealogies. There are sections about the 4 primary elements of fire, earth, air, and water, astrological signs, and the medieval humours of blood, phlegm, red bile, and black bile. Occultist John Dee, who was an advisor in the court of Queen Elizabeth I, had one of 2 copies of the Book of Saiga, but was not able to decipher all of the text due to the strange languages, coded tables, and symbols used. Many words are spelled backwards, such as the word Saiga itself, which is thought to represent the Greek word agios, meaning holy. As much of the text was thought to be written in Enochian, or angel languages, Dee constantly consulted a self-declared alchemist and scryer, or angel medium, called Sir Edward Kelly. Dee was finally forced to sell his Book of Saiga due to poverty, and his whereabouts became unknown. However, both copies resurfaced centuries later in 1994, one in the British Library and the other the Bodleian Library in Oxford. More recently, mathematician and professional cryptologist James Reeds has at least partially cracked the code and reported that the tables represent alternative depictions of the universe, which self-generate equations similar to those of chaos theory. The book reflects a brilliant mind, superlatively ahead of its time, and Reed's final astonishing verdict is that the Book of Saiga is a faithful representation of the universe. Number 4. The Urantia Book. The Urantia Book is a collection of writings which were channeled by an anonymous person during the 1920s and 30s and later collated in 1955. The book emerged in Chicago, Illinois at that time, and there is no one still alive who truly knows its history or who wrote it. The book was first brought into the public eye by husband and wife doctors William and Lena Sadler, who were lapsed Seventh-day Adventist followers. The bizarre story behind the book's discovery was that a neighbour had told them her husband was experiencing a strange sleep disorder. On observing the man's deep sleep patterns, Williams found that he was making unusual movements and speaking in a strange voice, by which he claimed to be a visitor from another planet, unable to impart messages from celestial beings. A large handwritten manuscript was found in his house, and over years of observations, further texts continued to appear, which were assumed to be the product of automatic writing. They became the Urantia Book, which the Stadlers pieced together as a philosophical guide to life. The book presents a complex cosmology in which Urantia is the Earth. While seeming to be based on Christianity, the book also presents a pseudo-history of the universe and refers to other extraterrestrial spirit authors with names such as the Divine Counselor and Brilliant Evening Star. Its now disproven pseudoscience is presented as authoritative fact, and at one point seeming to endorse eugenics. It also inspired some rock bands during the 70s. There is still a Urantia Foundation of enthusiasts who produce and recommend the book as uplifting spiritual truth. The unknown writer is now thought to be human, whether William Sadler himself or a relative, and accusations of plagiarism from early works have also been raised. Number 3. The Rohans Codex. The Rohans Codex is a hand-illustrated manuscript book which surfaced in Rohans, Hungary, now the Austrian city of Recknitz, in 1838. It was owned by a Hungarian nobleman, who was also a book collector, and donated his whole library to the Hungarian Academy of Sciences in his will. The mystery of the 448-page Rohans Codex is that of the many expert academics and cryptographers who have analysed it, none has been able to decipher the written meaning of the text, which is accompanied by 87 illustrations. The primitive but decorative cartoon-like images depict a medieval world with coexisting Christian, pagan and Muslim symbols. They portray military, religious and everyday scenes. The watermark of the paper the codex is written on shows it was produced in Venice in 1530. Some believe the book may be a hoax from the 18th century, but most historians seem convinced of its authenticity. Every kind of analysis and interpretation has been offered for the origins of the mysterious text, from Old Hungarian to Hindi to an artificial language contrived to disguise subversion. 2 respected cryptographers have recently announced that they have broken the code, but a public announcement of the results has not yet been made. Number 2. The Red Book. In 1913, following a falling out with renowned psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, Swiss physician and psychologist Carl Jung experienced a waking vision during a train journey to Schaffhausen. The countryside around him was awash with blood and devastation, and on the same trip, weeks later, the vision was repeated with words of warning that all this would become real. Perhaps these visions were a premonition of the First World War. They triggered 4 years of intensive introspective activity for Jung in describing and illustrating what some psychologists have labelled a psychotic breakdown and others creative genius. To piece together his Red Book, Jung engaged what he called his mythopoetic imagination. This involved evoking and acting in his own fantasies, which he called dramatised thinking, then describing each encounter. Releasing his subconscious in this way summoned visions of historical and religious figures, and Jung always forced these personas to engage and explain why they had appeared. The inspirational visitations informed the 404-page book, which he compiled with painstaking calligraphy and artworks, like an illuminated manuscript. The many ideas it contained led to cultural behemoths such as the AA movement. Jung's family protected his unconscious dissertations for nearly 80 years, with the Red Book finally becoming publicly viewable in 2009. Number 1. The Sarajevo Haggard. An ancient book which has survived certain destruction many times is the Sarajevo Haggard. The book is one of the oldest Haggardars, which are traditionally Jewish manuscripts that accompany the Passover Seder, and it dates back to around 1350. While its contents aren't so mysterious, its uncanny resilience over centuries is nothing short of miraculous. The book originated in Barcelona, Spain, from where adherents to the Jewish faith were expelled in 1492 under the monarch's Alhambra decree. The already 150-year-old Haggadah had to be smuggled out of the country and was taken to Italy, where it remained until 1894. It was then sold to the National Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina in Sarajevo, formerly Hungary. However, during World War II, it again had to be secretly spirited away from the anti-Semitic Nazis in Ustasha by the museum's chief librarian, Dervis Korkut, who risked his life to do so. Korkut entrusted the book to a Muslim cleric who hid it on the floorboards of a mosque for the next 10 years. Much later on display in 1992, the Haggadah survived when the museum was ransacked during the Bosnian War. It had been thrown on the floor and was found amongst rubble, obviously not thought valuable by the looters. It was thereafter confined to an underground bank vault where it evaded Serbian forces during the siege of Sarajevo. Restored and back on show in 1995, Weinstein's appeared the worst that has happened to the intrepid book, which is now insured for over $7 million. More importantly, it has become a public symbol of interfaith respect and harmony.